podcast. When I was a kid, I enjoyed watching cartoons on TV. One of my favorites was a show called The Flintstones. The Flintstones were a cartoon family from the Stone Age. There was husband and wife, Fred and Wilma, and their baby daughter Pebbles. Of course, being a family in the Stone Age, they even had a pet dinosaur. Watching the Flintstones, I probably really believed that families had pet dinosaurs thousands of years ago. Well, it turns out humans did not have pet dinosaurs, but life for humans during the Stone Age was still a whole lot different than it is today. Let's learn more.
Mailbag!
Mailbag! Good morning, guys. My son Luke is 6 years old and loves your podcast. We live in Montgomery, Texas, outside of Houston. Every time we're in the car, we listen to your podcast. Luke would love to know more about cavemen and the history of wrestling. He has 4 brothers, and they've wrestled since they could walk. He officially started wrestling this summer and loves it. We thought it would be interesting to know about either or both. Thank you for the consideration. Love Luke and his brothers Carter, Colt, Blake, and Bryce.
Dudes, that's a lot of boys. It doesn't surprise me that there's a lot of wrestling going on in their house. I mean, Noah and I wrestle from time to time, and there's just 2 of us. We love your topic suggestions, and we can't wait to learn all about cavemen for you this week.
We learned about caves just a few months ago, and you would think from the word caveman that cavemen lived in caves. We're going to find out in a moment if that's actually true. But first, what's the question of the week?
The current world population is 8.2 billion. That means that roughly 8.2 billion people live on Earth today. The question of the week is, how many people lived on Earth in the year 8000 BCE, during the Stone Age?
That's an interesting question. While you're thinking about the answer, let's learn about some of the very first humans to roam the Earth. Cavemen. Who are cavemen? How did they live? And what in the world did they do all day? Buckle up and grab your clubs, because we're taking the time machine way, way, way back this week.
The term caveman is used to describe early humans who lived thousands and thousands of years ago, during a time called the Paleolithic Age. That's just a fancy word for the Old Stone Age, which started about 2.5 million years ago, and ended around 10,000 years ago.
But did cavemen actually live in caves?
Well, they certainly didn't build houses like we do today. They used caves and rock shelters to stay safe from weather, animals, and other dangers. Some cavemen, like the famous Neanderthals, are sometimes linked to caves because lots of their fossils have been found in caves.
And it's important to note that cavemen weren't just one group of people. The word caveman is used to describe different types of early humans, like Homo habilis, Homo erectus, and Neanderthals. They were all different cavemen that lived in different times and places, but they all had a few things in common. They used tools, lived in small groups, and they hunted for food.
Cavemen didn't have cars, smartphones, or even electricity. They made their own tools out of stone and other materials like rocks, sticks, and bones. With those materials, they were able to make tools to help them cook, hunt, and protect themselves.
Many cavemen had the same tools. One of those essential tools was a hand axe, which was basically a sharp stone used to chop wood or cut meat. They made spears for hunting, scrapers for preparing their food, and they also made bow and arrows to catch animals from a distance.
So, think about what we were saying. Cavemen made these tools out of stone. Can you imagine carving tools out of stone with your hands?
That's right. Cavemen worked hard to make tools, which also included tools for making clothes and for shelter. Clothes and shelter were super important for the cavemen, especially during the Ice Age when it was freezing cold.
Because cavemen created tools, they were basically the first inventors. The tools they used still exist in more modern forms today.
They needed to make those tools for survival. They didn't have grocery stores or even farms, so they had to hunt and gather their food. That means that the men usually went out hunting for animals like bison and deer, while women gathered foods like berries, nuts, and plants.
Cavemen were smart. They hunted in groups, working together to bring down big animals. They used tools like spears, traps, and even fire to catch animals.
And for fun, cavemen did things a bit differently than we do today. They made time for art, rituals, and storytelling. They painted on cave walls, making amazing cave paintings of animals and hunting scenes. Lots of those beautiful works of art have been discovered in recent years.
Cave paintings are amazing. I've seen pictures of them. They are so detailed and colorful, even though they were made with just natural materials like charcoal and minerals. They were like the first form of art.
And just like us, cavemen were into music too. They banged drums made from animal skins and used animal bones to make instruments similar to flutes. As you can see from these examples, cavemen were very good at using the things around them for survival and for entertainment.
But there's one tool that was super important to cavemen that we should discuss, and that tool was fire. It was the cavemen that discovered fire.
And it was a total game changer. Scientists believe that humans started using fire about 1 million years ago. They might have discovered it by watching lightning strikes or natural wildfires, but eventually they learned how to make fire themselves just by using sticks and stones.
And once they discovered fire, they used it in so many different ways. They used it to keep them warm at night, to cook their food, and to protect them from wild animals. They also used it for light when it was dark outside, which allowed them to stay up later and do things well after the sun went down.
Eating meat became easier with fire. With the use of fire, the meat prepared by cavemen was softer, tastier, and safer too. Eating meat allowed cavemen to get lots of nutrients, which are super important for staying strong and healthy.
Fire was like the ultimate tool for cavemen. It was their heater, their stove, and their light. Quick question. We keep saying cavemen, but of course there were cave women too. What did families look like thousands of years ago?
Cavemen didn't live alone. They lived in small groups called bands or tribes. They were made up of a group of families, and everyone had a role to play. Some people were hunters, some gathered plants, some cared for the children, and some made tools. Which role would you want to do in a tribe of cavemen?
I would want to care for the children. As hard as that might be, I feel like it's a whole lot easier than hunting, gathering, or making tools out of stone.
Cavemen really used teamwork and cooperation to exist in a closely knit tribe. They helped each other to ensure the health and safety of everyone in the tribe.
And they did this all without language as we know it today. They didn't have a written language at all, but they were still able to communicate using simple words, hand gestures, and sound to get their point across.
Maybe they said, "ah," if they were scared, or "ah," if they were angry. But over time, their language became more and more complex.
So, in addition to creating the first tools that humans used, they even developed their own language out of nothing? That's pretty amazing. They started the process that would eventually lead to the hundreds of languages we have today.
And, as resourceful as the cavemen were, they had a huge challenge to overcome that really tested them: the Ice Age.
The Ice Age was a really tough time for cavemen. Huge glaciers covered most of the earth, and temperatures were way colder than they are now. Cavemen had to adapt quickly to survive in the harsh environment. It's not like they could just put a jacket on and turn up the heat like we do today.
Instead, they made clothes out of animal skins and furs. They also used their stone tools to build shelters out of branches, rocks, and animal bones.
Finding food was more difficult for them too, since many animals moved to warmer places. Thankfully, the cavemen were resilient. They learned how to hunt cold weather animals like mammoths, which provided not only food, but also fur for clothes and bones for tools.
Even though cavemen really had to be creative to survive the Ice Age, they were super resourceful. Like we said earlier, they did all the things necessary to survive. and they even had some time left over for other things like art.
Scientists aren't certain why cavemen painted animals in their caves. It could have been part of a hunting ritual. In other words, maybe they thought that drawing animals would bring them good luck on their hunts. It could also have been a way to tell stories or pass on knowledge down through the generations. Whatever the reason, their beautiful paintings have been discovered in places like France and Spain. The paintings are thousands of years old and show animals like bison, deer, and horses. There are also paintings of handprints and mysterious symbols.
So we've learned a lot about cavemen and how they lived. But are you wondering what happened to cavemen and why there aren't any cavemen around today?
Well, over time, cavemen evolved into modern humans, like us.
That's right. Scientists think that Homo sapiens, which is the species we belong to, started to develop around 200,000 years ago. Eventually, Homo sapiens became the dominant human species, and other groups like the Neanderthals just disappeared.
So, in a sense, we are connected to the cavemen. We are like their great, well, you get the idea.
Exactly. We share lots of traits with the cavemen, like our ability to make tools, communicate, and work together in communities. But over thousands of years, humans learned more, creating new technologies, and built the world we live in today.
I wonder what a caveman would think if he or she could see the world we live in today, with all the comforts we have that they were not able to enjoy thousands of years ago. That would be crazy. We should be very thankful for everything they contributed to the world, allowing for future generations to inherit a better world.
Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. Shopify is there to help you grow. Shopify helps you sell everywhere, from their all-in-one e-commerce platform to their in-person POS system. Shopify's got you covered. Shopify helps you turn browsers into buyers with the internet's best converting checkout, 36% better on average compared to other leading commerce platforms, and sell more with less effort thanks to Shopify Magic, your AI-powered all-star. What I love about Shopify is how no matter how big you want to grow, Shopify gives you everything you need to take control and take your business to the next level. Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce in the U.S., and Shopify is the global force behind Allbirds, Rothy's, and Brooklinen, and millions of other entrepreneurs of every size across 175 countries. Plus, Shopify's award-winning help is there to support your success every step of the way. Because businesses that grow with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Westwood1, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Westwood1 now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/Westwood1.
All right, Olivia, I know a little somebody who would love to join us and drop some caveman knowledge. Like the cavemen, he enjoys walking around the house wearing almost nothing and making sounds that don't really resemble any language in particular. Here with 5 facts you need to know about cavemen is Noah. Take it away, Noah.
Fact number 1. Brandon Marsh, one of the outfielders for the Philadelphia Phillies, is actually a caveman. Just kidding. He does look like a modern-day caveman, though. Here's the real fact. Neanderthals, one of the most famous types of cavemen, had larger brains than modern humans. That doesn't necessarily mean that they were smarter, though. Fact number 2. Some of the animals the cavemen hunted no longer exist because they went extinct. Those animals include the cave bear, giant deer, woolly mammoth, and woolly rhinoceros. Those sound like some pretty tough animals. Fact number 3. Dogs were domesticated in the Stone Age. That means that dogs were not good animals to live with before the cavemen trained them to live with humans. Fact number 4. Cavemen started wearing jewelry during the Stone Age. They made their jewelry from shells, teeth, stones, and animal claws. Fact number 5. Even though my dad thought humans and dinosaurs lived together because of the show The Flintstones, dinosaurs had already been extinct for 63 million years before humans existed. No pet dinosaurs for the cavemen.
Great job as always, Noah. All right, Olivia, 8.2 billion people live in the world today. That's billion with a B. And each billion is 1,000 millions. The human population is also growing rapidly. The human population has just about doubled since the year I was born, and that's completely insane. How many people lived on Earth in the year 8000 BCE, which was towards the very end of the Stone Age?
The population of humans on Earth was just 5 million in the year 8000 BCE. For every one person that existed back then, there are 1,640 people existing right now. The world population has exploded, with most of that growth taking place in just the last 200 years.
Well, that's a wrap for this week's episode.
Thanks so much for listening to this week's podcast, number 284 on Cavemen.
Great job, Olivia, and great job to Luke, Carter, Colt, Blake, and Bryce for an episode topic suggestion that was so easy to learn about that even a caveman could do it. Before we go, we have a big announcement to make.
Noah and I love to collect trading cards. Our favorite trading cards to collect are soccer, baseball, and basketball cards. We thought it would be a cool idea to create Curious Kid Podcast trading cards for our listeners. If you want to know more, click on the link in the episode notes. If you order Curious Kid Podcast trading cards, me and Noah will sign our cards with a message to you.
The Curious Kid Podcast trading cards are awesome. If you order them, you won't be disappointed. If you are looking for something special to get a Curious Kid Podcast fan for the holidays, or for any day for that matter, check out the Curious Kid Podcast trading cards. Join us next week when we will get curious about asthma for listeners in New Hampshire and Israel. As always, thank you so much for listening and getting curious with us.